medicine is one area which needs lot of change. After all, change, you know, if you go to the dictionary and see what life is, ceaseless change till death. You keep on changing every day, and with that, society also changes, and we need change a lot. I always say, don't go to the doctor for asking for health, don't go to the police asking for honor, and don't go to the judge for justice. If you are ill, go to the doctor. If you have somebody has harmed you, then go to the police. And if some injustice is done to you, go to the court. Similarly, when I became a doctor more than half a century ago, it's little over 60 years now, I found there are a lot of change needed in medicine. Because what we used to do is, we used to get our patients, to get more patients, we used to frighten them. And the whole thing, medicine depended on fear. Fear of disease in the first place, and that's why you go for a checkup. Fear of dying is the biggest fear, and you go to every doctor the minute you think you will die. Last is the fear of not knowing what is in store for you. So we cash in on this fear and make money, although our ethics says do not make money in the sick room. That's where we make all our money. So medicine was in a bad shape in the 19th century. Actually, to be precise, in 1823, they took a statistic in London. Very few doctors were there. They found that these doctors were incompetent, corrupt, and very, very dangerous. And one of them thought, a young doctor, thought that these were an abscess on the human body and they were killing the human body. So he said, I'm going to start a science journal to teach them science so that they change and the world will become better. So he started a journal called Lancet, The Lancet. Lancet means a knife. So that was the name of the very famous journal, started in 1823. And his name was James Wakeley. So Wakeley died and the journal continued on and off with little difficulty for 185 years now. So the present editor, Dr. Horton, wanted to find out what has happened to doctors after Lancet started and science came in. So-called science came in. So the audit now shows that what was once an abscess on the human body with a corrupt bunch of doctors has transformed itself into a corporate monstrosity which is killing people all over the world. Today you go into a corporate hospital, even if you sneeze, they'll do every test under the sun and then give you a huge bill. And more so, if you are insured, you're finished. Medical insurance is the biggest danger thing, because they find out, are you insured? Yes, then we'll do all the tests. Are you rich? We'll do all the tests. And the best part of the whole story is that the poor man doesn't suffer the medical industry. And that's the only saving grace in our country. So what I did was, I tried to sort of change the science of medicine and did a lot of work and published about 250 science journals, articles in various journals all over the world. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Then I thought, I'll educate the doctors and the medical students. So I went around medical colleges all over the world, right from America down to the eastern countries, except probably South America and China. And then also nothing happened. Then the last thing I did in the last about 20 years is, I tried to educate the consumer. And that has paid rich dividends. What I have done now is, I have got more than a few million respondents who listen to my talk and find out and get educated so that they don't become bakras in the doctor's hands. I'll give one for example. Everybody is told you have a block in the heart vessel. But for your information, the block in the heart vessel has nothing whatsoever to do with the heart attack. And block in the heart vessel is something different. Coronary artery blocks are different from coronary artery disease. They are poles apart. But we frighten people because that's the only thing that we can make money with. And today corporate hospitals run on cardiac interventions. In America, they found that bypass surgery and angioplasty are done only to keep the till moving and get millions of dollars of income for the hospitals and doctors, and not for benefiting the patient, because we have known now bypass surgery does not do anything other than remove the pain. If the pain is something that you can't remove by other means, then bypass surgery is a must. But then we do bypass surgery for everybody who has a block. Angioplasties are not to be done at all. Recent studies have shown angioplasty is unscientific. And we also now know that angioplasty and bypass surgery are both just placebo effects. So ultimately I came to realize that is the human mind that works in disease, in wellness, etc., etc. But where is the mind? That's the question. And even today we don't know where exactly is the mind. Do you believe that? A man who said the mind is in the brain, Wilder Penfield, the Canadian surgeon, got the Nobel Prize. But after 10 years, he found out that he was wrong. And he wrote an article saying that, sorry for writing what I did. And the mind is not in the brain because brain is a small organ which can't hold the mind. So mind is everywhere. Mind is universal. Mind is a canvas on which your thoughts are projected. And mind is consciousness. And when consciousness came into science, mind had a new connotation. But even today, what do we do? For mental illnesses, we still give chemical drugs. What do? They go to the brain and damage the brain. So there's a professor of neurosurgery and neuropsychiatry. This girl, Grace Elizabeth Jackson in New York University, she wrote a book, Dementia, a drug-induced crime on mankind by doctors. We say, oh, he has got dementia, he has got Alzheimer's disease. This is all created by us by the chemicals that we give. Every chemical that we give is dangerous. So I said, why not take the help of other systems of medicine also, even there's something good about it. So I looked at the reason why modern so-called Western medicine has become dominant, because it's the money power of the drug lobby that has made it, and the government helped it. The American government helped it. Actually, there was a demand in the American Constitution itself to demand that this monopoly of medical treatment should not be there, but that was deleted because the drug lobby worked, because drug lobby was held by the richest people in America. And even today, the drug lobby is the one that runs science. And you all say Western medicine is evidence-based, Indian medicine is not evidence-based. What is evidence? It is the evidence that is created. You can create evidence. For example, for 50 years I have been saying cholesterol is not a disease. Coconut oil is the best oil because coconut oil and mother's milk contain the same fatty acid. So coconut oil can't be bad, and other oils are not good. But nobody believed. They laughed at me. Now United States of America has found out that's true, and now everybody says coconut oil is good. Coconut oil prices have gone up skyrocketing because America has said that. So we want everything come from America because we are 200, nearly 300 years of Western rule. We have become mental slaves. We have become politically independent for the politicians, but not for you and me. You and me are still resident non-Indians. RNI, I call you. You are staying here, but thinking with the American mind or the English mind. This RNI mentality has to change. Now, if you go deep and find out what happened was, in the 50s, it was found that sugar is very bad for the heart. Sugar is a poison, which is true. But the sugar lobby got worried. So they hired 3 scientists, so-called quote-unquote scientists. Who is a scientist? I'll tell you later. If I forget, remind me. 3 scientists to create a myth saying that fat is bad, not the sugar. So they created a beautiful thing called cholesterol, fat. And even today, a lot of people call me and say, my fat profile is bad, doctor. I said, what is the fat profile? Don't worry. If it is bad, it's good for you. You will live long. But they worry about it. Then we have a drug for everything. So we always believe that, or the patient believes that the pill for every ill. And I changed that to say that while there is no pill for every ill, there is an ill following every pill. Even aspirin has got so much of side effects. The people used to swallow an aspirin tablet after the age of 40 to keep the heart attack away. The audit shows while aspirin may or may not reduce the heart attack rate, it will 10% of aspirin takers certainly get fatal cerebral hemorrhage, brain hemorrhage. I have lost a very important educationist, a patient of mine, who was vice chancellor of so many universities in Karnataka, very important man, very nice man. He was given aspirin. So I told him and his family, please stop that aspirin. But they wouldn't listen because they said, no, our doctors have given it, we should take it. He continued, and one day he was phoning up a friend of his in the evening and then just collapsed and became unconscious. And when scan showed, he had bled into his brain completely, and the brain was completely suppressed by the brain, and he died on the spot. So this is what is happening. So even aspirin, so don't take medicines unnecessarily. Take medicines very carefully. Then I said, what are the common things? An audit in Canada showed that when a doctor sees one patient, a heart attack patient in society, he will have seen 36,000 common illness syndromes, which are called minor illness syndromes. We don't even teach that in the medical school. We teach about the coronary artery branches or the facial artery branches, but not about minor illness syndromes. What are the minor illness syndromes? Common cold, feverish cold, flu-like illness, sore throat. And for all these things, today we go to a hospital doctor and get so many medicines or television advertisements. सिर में दर्द है, हाँ यार, ये भी है, हाँ हाँ यार, और भी ये है, हाँ हाँ यार, तो 5 दवा लेना, एक नहीं. Take these 5, and he swallows that, and immediately the whole thing becomes normal. So you believe that. Actually, these are all. It was Harvard University, one Professor Simon, who showed that our old granny's ginger is the best antiviral drug. Ginger, pepper, and garlic together will probably solve most of these problems without any side effects at all. Last but not the least is the commonest thing that you get is a sore throat. And you go to a doctor and take an antibiotic. An antibiotic spoils your health. But you would be surprised to know that the best treatment for a sore throat is hot water sip. You sit quietly, take a mug of hot water. If you want, put a little lime in it to make it tasty, and keep on sipping for about an hour. When your throat becomes 1 degree centigrade higher, the viruses die and you are okay by afternoon. So simple. And all this is because we have wonderful treatments in other systems also, which we say do not have evidence base. Now we know the evidence base of Western medicine is evidence manufactured. I told you how fat became an evidence for heart disease. Similarly, all other medicines are like that. So all these things you have to spread now. So all this, I do an average every week at television view, and I do 1 or 2 YouTube videos. So all these go around, and now I got statistics say I got about 5 million people in the world who are influenced. I get calls from Australia, America, China, everywhere, and I get consultations on the YouTube, on email from all these places. Because I'm free, I'm doing this free, I just can't cope up with it because I get about 200, 250 email consultation requests every day. And people have a myth that saying that I don't have to see the doctor, my reports can be seen by the doctor. So I always tell them I have got a set written. I have not learned how to treat reports. I have learned how to treat a human being. And I don't believe in disease, but I believe in the patient. Hippocrates said, know thy patient more than his disease. And when once I know the patient, it's very easy to treat, because supposing I have a headache, I don't have to go for a tablet. I know if I know the person very well, and if I know that he and his wife are not getting on very well, I just have to pat him and say, why did you fight with your wife yesterday? Just take it easy, the headache will go. And I had a patient, a very important man in India. If I told his name, you'll all know, stand up. This man keeps seeing me every time I go to Chennai with, I have a small headache here. Yesterday again he came. He is 94. And he said, I have a small headache here. So I told him, dear sir, because you have a head, there must be an ache. And I have a treatment for that. He said, he is a colleague of our CNR Rao and all. So when CNR Rao got the Nobel Prize, what is that called? Bharat Ratna Award. This man did not get it. After that, the headache started. So I said, I would, if I have the power, request the government of India to give you a Bharat Ratna or whatever, Bharat Ratna or so, your headache will go. He laughed. And his assistant told me afterwards, sir, ninge satyama sonninge. This is exactly our review also, but we can't tell it because he's a big man. That's the right treatment. So yesterday again he came. So I told him, don't you worry, nothing will happen. Your head is all right. And he has had all things, CAT scan, dog scan, PET scan. And each time he goes to the doctor and says, I have a headache, they scan his head. And I said, at this rate, you will have a cancer in the head because you've been scanning so many things. So this is the story. So if I know the person, I know the treatment which doesn't require medicines. My suggestion is you require as less medicine as possible. Life is very good. I had a stroke recently. I followed all the rules of the game. to lead a healthy life. But one day I was lecturing like this in a college for about 2.5 hours. I was standing lecturing. After that, I went for a meal. Then I found my leg was a little weak. And there's a story started there. But anyway, I recovered, thank God. Let's cut the long story short. I've written an article about it. It's called Autopathographies. I've written how it happens and why it goes. All this is because it's in the mind. Ultimately, the mind is the seat of all the disease. And mind has to be corrected. So I was telling that scientist yesterday who saw me for a headache, I said, sir, we have all the gadgets, but we don't have a mindoscope. If you can get into your mind and see, decipher your mind, your headache will have gone. He said, yes, mindoscope, that's a very good idea. Enga chonneenga? Then I said, no, solla ippada aalochanai panna. Ungala paatha aalochanai panna. See, that's how it happens. But mind you, this is very difficult to change. Change is difficult, very difficult. But these days we are better off. When in the 18th century, Simmelweis said, doctors don't wash their hands and that's why patients die. That other doctors thought he was mad and he was put into the mental hospital and he died there. But thank God, they have not put me into the mental hospital, though they wanted to. When I first wrote 40 years ago, I wrote a book called What Doctors Don't Get to Study in Medical School. Such a bad review was there in Indian journals. They said this man is mad, he doesn't know medicine, he has to be put in jail, etc., etc. But then after a week, the British Medical Journal wrote a review on the same book, which said this is not a textbook of medicine, but this holy text of medicine written by a prophet. Then Indians changed. Then they said, okay, that book must be good. So the book is in several editions now, but that didn't change much. You know, the day I changed myself, I was a young man and had a lot of degrees and things like that, and I had lost my head, and I didn't know who I was. But one day, a young lady lost her husband at 2 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely fit person who had a massive heart attack and died at about 2 o'clock. My juniors called me and said, sir, please come. This lady is uncontrollable. You come. So I went there at 2 o'clock in the morning and I had not put on my shoes. I had gone in my chappals. Walked into the ICU. This lady was rolling on bed and she caught hold of my, with a big grip of my ankle and asked one profound question. Doctor, why did my husband die? I thought for a while, my God, with all my lore, I'm a bloody fool today. I don't know the answer to this question. If she had asked me, how did my husband get a heart attack, I would have given her a big lecture on what the textbooks say. But when she said why, I didn't know. So I went out into so many things, from teleology to philosophy, and found that ultimately a Nobel laureate physiologist said, positive sciences never answer the question why. They answer at best how or how much. I as a doctor can say, how does the heart contract? But I can't say why does the heart contract. For to know why does the heart contract, you got to go to teleology. So that is where I went into Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, and now I find all these systems are equally good. Then I found a study done in Thailand where there are 5 systems of medicine concurrently working in society. Western medicine, pure Chinese medicine, integrated Western Chinese medicine, Samoa system where the father tells the son what to do, and quackery. And the study after 5 years showed that all these people are equally effective as long as they had interest in the patient. So I always tell my students after that, whether you like homeopathy, homopathy, Ayurveda or whatever it is, as long as you have empathy and sympathy, you are a good doctor. Now my slogan to my medical students is, be a good human being, you are a good doctor. You don't have to have any big degree, etc. Because patient must have faith in you. When once he has faith in you, that's called the placebo effect, you will get cured. So many people said, oh, what is this man talking about? When I get bypass surgery done, it's bypass surgery done on me. So where is the placebo effect? My former chief in Harvard did a very good study. 600 people over the 5 years were sent for bypass surgery to Harvard Medical School. And he examined them and found none of them needed bypass surgery scientifically. But then they have come, they have paid the money. Anyway, the hospital has received the money. So we had 2 theaters, theater A and theater B. And he sent the patients blindly into 1 to A, said 2 to B. And the protocol in A was anesthetize, operate, send. Because those days we were doing with the laser beam, so you don't have to cut the chest. And B was anesthetize, keep him sleeping. When he wakes up, tell him he had a wonderful operation, send him home. And now after 10 years, they found that those who went to theater B had nothing. They were all normal. Their blood supply had come back to normal. Their scanning had become normal. But those who went to A, half of them did not get relief, so they had a cut open surgery. The other remaining half of them were in heaven with their maker. The remaining half are suffering from the drugs that they're receiving. So the conclusion was even bypass surgery is a placebo effect. And in India, it is definitely a placebo effect, because after having paid 10 lakhs, if you don't get a placebo effect, you are not a human being. So friends, change is a must, because knowledge, said Karl Popper, who was a physicist, became the professor of science philosophy in the London School of Economics in the 50s, and Colossus in that. He said, I quote, Karl Popper said, knowledge advances not by repeating known things, but by refuting false dogmas. Look at what the police commissioner did. The knowledge was that the crime statistics helps. Actually, that's what is being repeated even now in the papers, crime statistics. But he found out that it's a myth. Crime statistics doesn't really give the image of the police. So he changed that. So knowledge advances by changing myths and not by repeating own things. So a lot of myths in medicine, my dear friends, hell of a lot. And we have to change that. I'm trying to do that. Now I got a lot of followers. Medical students come to me and say, sir, can I get an internship with you for 2 months? I want to learn something, sir. And they can bring their parents to me for consultation. And this is how the world changes. Medicine also changes, needs change. And everything else in life changes, because life changes itself. Change is life. And there was a big case in the New York court between creationists and scientists. And the court, the judge in his wisdom gave a judgment saying that science has changed. Medicine has, creationist ideas have not changed. So you can't be scientific. You are just religion. And religion is not science. So friends, science has to change.